Hey everybody, how are you doing today? My name is Buddy Blackford. Today we're going to be going over layer masks and we're going to start to understand them. I'm going to show you how to create them and tell you a little bit about layer masks. Now, what a mask is in Photoshop is an attachment to a layer that defines the visible elements of the layer. So each layer in the document can have a mask, except for a background layer. As you can see right now, we have a background. So all you have to do when you have a background is just to double click on it, hit OK, and it'll change it to a layer. So just change that to a layer. So go ahead and load up any image you want. What we're going to do is we're going to create a mask real quick, and it's going to be called a layer mask. There are two types of masks. Well, there's a couple kinds of masks, but two popular kinds of masks are layer and vector masks. And we're going to go over layer masks for now, and we'll go over vector masks later. So the way you can add a layer mask to a layer is by adding it from this icon down here, and this is the Add Layer Mask button. Click on that, and then you can see a white box pops up. If you don't have anything selected or anything like that, a white box will pop up, and this is actually your mask. Sometimes if you're talking to some old school people or maybe some older teachers, you may hear them call a layer mask a pixel mask. So they're basically interchangeable terms. So what a layer mask actually is a resolution dependent bitmap images created with painting and selection tools. So I'll explain that in a little bit. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to go back in my history to when I didn't have the mask. I'm going to go ahead and make a selection here, and I'm just going to make it around the edge so I can have like a little border, like maybe like a photo border or something like that. So I've got my selection going on here, and now I'm going to go ahead and make a mask, and you can see now that where I had my selection, the mask took that part out. Now if we go to our layer options here, we can change our what are these called? Our thumbnails to a little bit larger. So let's go to panel options here, and we'll go to our thumbnail size, and we can increase that. We can increase it maybe to this like big one here. Hit OK, and you can see your mask a lot better here. Let me pull this out a little bit so you can see it. Wrong one. Pull this out. All right, now we can see the entire thing going on here. Now if you look close at your mask, you can see around the edges here, there's black, and in the middle we have white. So on a layer mask, white represents visible elements and black represents transparent or invisible elements. And then when you use different shades of gray, that's going to represent a level of transparency. So if you use 50% gray as your color, then it's going to be 50% transparent. Now, when you're using a mask, you're working with a two-layered or two-layer elements. So you've got your image over here, and then you've got your mask. And notice when I click on the image, you can see that there's like some white bounding box around it. And if I click on the mask, it's going to switch over there. Now you need to make sure that you have your mask selected if you want to work on the mask, and if you just want to work on the image, you got to have your image selected. So I'm going to show you something. Let's go ahead and select a paintbrush tool. Paintbrush, where are we here? Here we go. And I'm just going to make this a little bigger, and I'm going to change the color to black. And remember, when you paint on things when you paint in black, it's going to make the image transparent. So go ahead and make sure you have your mask selected in your layer panel, and then go ahead and just make some black brush strokes. You can see that you are now painting out some of the image, and you can see on your mask here, you can see where I painted, and you can see that the image is now made transparent wherever I painted black. Now if you need to fix that, go ahead and switch back to white. I'm just going to make this a little bigger. And go ahead and paint right back over top, and you can see that you can paint it right back in when you are using white. Now I'm gonna go ahead and let's go with a like something like a 50% gray or somewhere around there. Go ahead and start painting that, and you can see that it's somewhat transparent, 50% about. So that's how the mask works, and that's the basics of using a layer mask in Photoshop. Now let me go back a little bit to where I added the mask. There we go. And now I'm gonna switch back to black, and I'm gonna click on the image, and now I'm gonna start painting. You can see now that it just paints black because I'm now on the image instead of on the mask. So that's how the selecting back and forth works. You want to make sure you're on the right layer element there. You want to make sure you're on the mask or click on the mask if you're working on the mask, and click on the image if you're working on the image. Now, when you're working with masks, you can get a lot of your fine-tuning from the properties panel. And the properties panel is this one here with like the cube and the squares and stuff like that. Click on it, and if you don't have your properties panel, go to Window and then go to Properties right here, and it'll show up. Now, you can see that if I select my mask here, we've got mask properties. We have the ability to mess with the density. And you can see that as I lower the density, the transparency moves around there. If I bring it back up, it's fully transparent. If I move this feather, you can see that the edge is starting to be feathered out. And then we've got our refining options here where we've got our mask edge, and you can adjust everything here, and I'll do that. I'll go over all this stuff at a different time. This is just the refine mask tool. And then we've got a color range, and then we've got invert. So if I select invert, it's gonna switch, and now only the outside. You can see the entire mask switched, so it's all black on the inside and only white on the outside. Now there's a couple hotkeys that you should be aware of when you're working with masks. If you shift click on the mask, it'll disable the mask, and you can tell by the red X that goes through the mask, obviously. So if you shift click on it again, it'll come off. If you alt or option click on the mask, it'll show you the mask in the panel here, and then if you do the same thing, it'll bring the image back up. So that's how you can check out your mask a little bit better and work on it a little bit more. So if I start going like this on my mask, you can see that it actually works well on here. If you want to delete your layer mask, all you need to do is click on it and drag it down to the trash can here. It's going to ask you if you want to apply your layer mask before removing. Now, if you hit apply, it's going to add the transparency in here. So I'll hit apply real quick. And you can see that the layer mask is gone, but the transparency has still been applied to the edges. Now, if I just hit delete, it's not going to do that. It's going to just delete the entire layer mask without applying it. So that's all I'm gonna have time to talk about for layer masks in this tutorial. And keep watching, because I'm gonna go over some more about masks because they are really useful and you can get a lot of usage out of them. So thanks a lot for watching, you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Have a good day, everybody.